Hi everybody, welcome back to Stamping School. This is Linda. So these are arriving in mailboxes to customers. I heard that one arrived this week and I imagine most of you will be getting them by next week. If you are new here and you don't have a demonstrator, send me an email and I will make sure that you get these in the mail if you're in the United States. This is the Stampin' Up! Mini catalog. The minis are getting bigger and bigger. It used to be called Holiday, now it's just the mini catalog July through December, and celebration will be happening in July and August, which is every time you spend $50, you get a freebie out of here. So I can't open these for you here online until they go live to customers, which is July 1st. But I do have some things to show you that I got in my pre-order as a demonstrator. There's a lot of things in there that aren't necessarily just holiday, which is great because I am so not ready for Christmas yet. I'm not ready for Thanksgiving yet. I'm still in the heat of summer and I have other things to work on for me personally. I know that they bring out the holiday catalog early because a lot of people do like to start working on them in July. But for me, I'm just not ready yet. So this stamp set just spoke to me. I had to have it. I just thought it was cute and fun. So let me show you the card we're gonna do and then you'll understand. So it says happy birthday and there's a little cardigan here and it says time for a cardigan. I love a pun. I know, I do, it's corny. And it has our friendship will live forever. Unlike most of the plants I've owned, that is so me. So I had to get it. There's a cute typewriter that says thank you, thank you, thank you in the shape of a heart. There's a little pendant banner. I just can't thank you enough. So it's just a standalone set. I think it's $22. Like I said, July 1st. And so we'll be making this card right here with a little slide out. And this is what I did on the inside. This I actually got from this set, Inspired Thoughts, just because I liked how the fonts kind of went together, and a little cardigan on the inside. And then I was trying to decide, you know, can I do it in other colors? So you might like this one too. This is just stamped in that new Starry Sky ink, the darkest one, and then I put it on the Oasis. What is that called again? Orchid Oasis cardstock. And then I colored it in with the Orchid Oasis and the new bright green, the Parakeet Party. But just to give like a different look. So you could, you know, definitely go with the more rustic colors, or, you know, you can go bright. This particular one, I used this die that's in the annual catalog. It comes with these and then some circles. I'll put the links below just in case you're interested. But I kind of like how it turned out. Let's work on the mechanism for this, which of course you can do any occasion, any card. This, I'm just gonna basically show you how to do this little pull out. Let's get the base of the card done first. This is Early Espresso, and this card, I did a top folding card, but I really think that it makes more sense to open from this side because your hand is already here. So I'm changing the orientation to landscape this way. And I also felt like this is kind of thin. I just used designer paper and put the ribbon around it. So I'm gonna back it with another piece of espresso. It's still under an ounce, although I wouldn't want to put this through the mail sorter. You would probably want to make sure you do a hand stamped on this card because of the pulling mechanism, and it's a little bit thicker that way. This paper is from the He's the Man suite, and I just like the rustic colors in it. And a little bit of espresso here on the end. Same paper, just from the same collection. I just like the pattern, the tone on tone there in the espresso. I've got this natural finish ribbon that's kind of more like a crumb cake color, but it works. A little piece of that right here. And a little crooked. There we go. Now, this is important though. Because of this mechanism here and this ribbon, that's going to get caught there. So we have to make sure that this stays down flat. And the only way to do that really is to put a piece of tape on it, or you don't want to glue it down because you still want this to be smooth. So I'm going to put this piece of tape right here. You're not going to see it. This is just a piece of masking tape, Scotch tape, whatever. But you want this little guy to slide easily across here. So just gluing it down isn't gonna work. You've gotta put some tape on there, something to hold it down, or do another piece of designer paper and avoid the whole issue. But I really like the texture on here. Then this whole thing just gets mounted on the card. And that's just an easy layer. So that's the base. Now let's work on this little frame. First, we gotta do our cardigan. I'm stamping it in Early Espresso, and I'm stamping it on thick Whisper White. Now, I also tried to stamp it on the designer paper, this same one right here, and I'll show you what that looks like. I kind of like the texture on it. You see all that extra little texture? I might use that one because I kind of like it. And it matches better than this one. We don't have a Sahara Sand alcohol marker. We only have the crumb cake, and so I kind of like that this one matches better. But I'm using the light Cajun Craze, which kind of matches this one. You can also use darker, and you know how to color. And I love the alcohol markers because you don't have to worry about any extra lines. They just sort of blend in nicely. So I did this light Cajun. I did it here, 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 and here. And then I went through with the light crumb cake. And I colored here, 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 and here. And for the pockets, I did the darker crumb cake. Just because I thought that it gave it just a little bit of contrast. So I did here and here, and I did a little bit down here on the bottom. So that's how I colored this one. And actually, that's how I colored this one. Except that I didn't have to color very much in between here. I just did a little bit of light crumb cake right here across it. Just a little bit to give it a little bit of definition. But I think I'll use that one because I really like the way that it matches. It's really cute. And again, so you can see the difference in how you can make them in any color. In school colors, I think this would be a great graduation card if you did that in school colors. That would be fun. Okay, so we're gonna set that aside, and now we're gonna make this frame. This piece of paper needs to be very close to the dies that I used. I used the 2 stitched rectangles and put them so they were a 1/2 inch apart. So there's one size in between here. I just skipped that size and went right to the next size. And this is approximately, like 3 1/8 by, let's see, it's about 1 3/4, just so you get the size. You know I put the measurements for you. Just look in the description below the video. There'll be a PDF for you. I just put those together. If you don't have a magnetic plate or something, just tape them together so they don't shift around. Now I started with Sahara Sand, and this is why. If you do just plain espresso, it's fine, but I really wanted it to give it that leather look. See how it looks a little worn? And then check this one out. How cool is that with all the stitches? I'll show you how to do that. That's my favorite. Okay, these rectangular stitched ones always stick a little bit, so just be careful pulling them out. Such a fine little stitching around there. So if you decide to just use the espresso, that's the easiest way. If you want to give it this mottled kind of look, you can use a sponge dauber, but then all the stitch lines fill in. For the alcohol marker, the blends, I'm using the number 100, SU100, and it's one of the skin tones. It's a really nice dark espresso, and you can lightly color across here. Now this is the one that's going to cover the stitches a little bit more, like this one here. See, there's a couple stitches showing, but mostly it's just looking a little mottled. So you're going to just kind of slap it on and let it dry, and then you can kind of just go back over it and touch it here and there, and it's going to give it that little texture in there. Now, if you want it to look like this, which I think is really cool, it's a little messier, but what you're going to do is take your ink pad. Here, I'll do it on this one so you can see. And the ink pad up here has very little plastic. I always use the top, and I would not do this in a class with a lot of people, unless you had a little ink spot, because you got to be careful with your ink pads, but you're just barely going to touch the tip right there to the paper. This is the direct to paper technique, and look at that. Just by doing that, just a little bit, and I tell you, if you do this, it's going to cover in the stitches. If you go across, it's going to cover in the stitches. But if you go up and down, or I'm literally just starting at the top and pulling down, that's all I'm doing, just like that. Isn't that cool? It's surprised how well that turned out. So it doesn't hurt my pad. I'm going very, very lightly. But like I said, I wouldn't do it in a class for 15 people. That might really get your pad messed up, but just for you. Isn't that fun? And when it dries a little bit lighter, but I love how it shows the stitches. So we'll see how it looks on the card. Okay, so that's gonna go right here. So step number 1 is to add your designer paper right behind, back here, and glue it on really, really well. I'm just gonna use my regular green glue and add it right here. I've been loving these little bottles from Amazon with my glue in it. Oh, they're fantastic. And I had taped this down, but if you move this little ring down, if you watch my video before, this will make sense, sorry, but this comes with this little cap here. And it was always getting in my way, so I taped it down. But then I realized I could move this whole ring down that's normally up here on the collar, but I moved it down on the bottle, and now it doesn't get in my way. It's fantastic. So I'm totally loving these guys. All right, there's my designer paper behind the frame. Now we need to pop it up and make this little mechanism right here. So to make this little pull mechanism, I've got 2 pieces here. One is just white cardstock that I'm gonna stamp the sentiment on, and one is a 3/4 inch piece of the Cajun Craze. Almost called it Really Rust. Shows my age as a demonstrator for how long that's been around. Cajun Craze. All right, I'm just using this banner punch. This is one of the double ones, so it'll make a little point. I like to use it upside down so I can kind of see where that little arrow is. Same thing here. This one. There we go. I'm gonna stamp it first in case I screw up. Now I want a little bit of room in here before the words come out because I want that to, like a 1/2 inch. So just make sure you reserve a little 1/2 inch spot. Now the font on this is a little sketchy, meaning that it's not exactly perfect. I'm trying to let that go. Can you see? It's got like where the A is, it's just very hairline thin. You can read it, but I want it to be a little darker. But I'm trying not to go in with the marker. Once I start messing with it, then I'm gonna mess it up. I'm gonna glue just to here. I'm gonna be cutting some of the end off. And this, like I said, this is about 5.5 inches. You want some extra room on here because we're gonna need it to create the cross T-bar here that's gonna be the stopper. But first, oh, I just smeared it. Man, that was a rookie mistake. Moving it and touching it before it's dry. Don't touch it. It's dry. All right, let that set aside for a minute. All right, so here is how we're going to put the dimension on here so that our little guy can slide. See that? There's those strips in there. I love these nice, long, sticky strips that Stampin' Up! Has. So you want to come in a little bit so you don't see it. If you have dimensionals, that works fine. Mounting tape, whatever. This is going to be the stopper so the tag doesn't fall through on this side. Right to here. And go all the way around here. Okay. And then we're going to have 2 little stoppers here, but we have to kind of figure out where that's going to be first. So the first thing we want to do, leave the top part on while you're working with this. First thing we want to do is make sure it's dry. Yes. And then this is going to be to here. We want that much to show. And then on the back side, we want to make sure that it stops here. So we're going to cut that off. Now this is going to depend on your sentiment. You might not have the same one that I have, so you're going to need to kind of adjust that way, depending on how big, and your rectangle might be bigger, you know? So just kind of have to wing it. But we know that's where that stops. Now we have to put the stopper here so it doesn't just keep coming all the way out of the card. So we bring it out like this. That looks good right there. Turn it over. Kind of make sure it's centered. Look at it again. Yep, that looks good right here. Now I'm going to put just a little bit of temporary tape to hold that there, just in case I bump it or something. Just going to stick that right there. So we know this is where we want it to stop. So we're going to add this little T that we cut off from here on the end, right here. So that'll be right here. That's why we're taping that down so it doesn't move. Adding a little bit of, oh, let's do the stronger glue. Let's do this stuff right here. A little bit of glue at the end. And it just needs to be wider than the strip. That's what's going to make it stop. Doesn't really matter where it goes because we're going to put a stopper here. Now you can use more of the strips, or you can use dimensionals, or I love these adhesive sheets that we have, Stampin' Up! Sells in the catalog. And I can cut any size I want. It's been really nice to not use like a million different dimensionals, but we're just going to put that right here, and I can kind of customize it to fit right there. And that's going to be the stopper. Pull this up a little. I don't want to go on there. That's going to go right here. Yes, it's a fiddly card. Yes, it takes a little more effort, but it's so worth it. Now just make sure that your sticky stuff does not get in the way of your lever, of your pull. Right, we can get this out of the way. Here's another little piece, and that's going to stop it on this side. Now if you have the dimensional strips, you can really just do, I would do 2 of these little guys, cut them down and do 2, but you don't want a lot of play in there because you don't want this to wobble around. So, I mean, I maybe have maybe 1/8 of an inch extra. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, see, you don't want a lot of wiggle room. All right, so we try it. See if that works. Ooh, yes, that looks good. Da-da-da. Now, the tricky thing, turning it upside down and getting it on the card. So we're going to take off all the paper. Okay, all my sticky stuff is off. I'm going to bring in the card. Now just kind of hold it in place. It's okay if that has play in it. All right, and then put it down, get it as centered as you can. Ta-da! There you go. Yay, it works. See what I mean? You don't want a ton of wiggle room in there. You want it to be easy, but you don't want it to fall out. So, right now, a little hole punch at the end. You got to give them something, and they might not see that that's something to pull unless there's a string on it. I'm just going to poke a little hole. On my original card, I did just some of this crumb cake twine, just to keep it natural looking. Kind of go with all the neutrals. That's probably about a 6-inch piece. Fold it in half, put the loopy end through the front. I like the way that looks. When you bring this around and put the tails through, looks nice on the front. Isn't that fun? I put one of these rustic metal dots. Here they are. Rustic metallic dots. And I stuck a big one on there. Then we put the cardigan on there. And this is what I meant by the adhesive sheets. I would probably put 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 dimensionals on there. But with the adhesive sheets, I can just go in and put one piece down. I think you get maybe 6 or 8 sheets of those in a package. But I just like not messing around with all those dimensionals. Now, right where the arm is, right there, I don't know if you can see that, where the arm bends, instead of cutting that out, I'm just going to fill it in with this Cajun, because I think it'll pick up the color that's underneath. So it'll kind of look like you're like I cut it out, but I didn't if they don't look too closely. Now, I added the little happy birthday on a stitched banner, and then I also added some stars from a die I had, because I felt like it was a little plain through here, but I didn't want to do a lot of bling. I just wanted to keep it rustic. So I just did a few little, in the Cajun Craze cardstock, I just did a few little stars. So whatever you want to put on there. And then that's the inside. I just changed up the color of the cardigan a little bit, added a few more of those little stars. And that's it. Oh, and a little bit of this ribbon underneath here. All right, go make one. We'll see you next time. See it, learn it, stamp it.